Hi, everybody, and glad to have you here. Can you guys hear me properly? Awesome. So my name is Nasser Khan, and I am a developer advocate here at Opsera. And today I am joined by our Chief Product Officer, Vishnu Vasudevan, who will give us an in-depth walkthrough of the Opsera AppSec agents for DevSecOps. We just launched about a month ago. So some quick house rules. Feel free to ping for questions at any time. We will also have a short Q&A at the end of this session, but again, feel free to interject and ask your questions. The idea is for you to get a good fundamental understanding of these inner loop SDLC agents and really get familiar enough to start using them right in your IDE. So again, we're calling this a workshop. You can play around. You can work. If you have your laptop, you can work through it, or you can listen to the session later and see how Vishnu went about executing the agents. So let's carry on over here. I don't want to really get into a lot of boring details. I know you want to get into the product and take a look at what's going on and how it's getting executed, how things are working. But quickly before we start, it's good to set some table stakes of what the major issues modern teams and landscapes are facing today in the SDLC. There has been a persistent problem of the outer loop of DevOps, what we call the outer loop being out of sync with the inner loop. So the pace of code creation, the throughput, is really not keeping pace. The inner loop is outpacing, the review cycles, the manual gates for security, compliance, and governance really slowing everything down. And what should be taking hours to ship is starting to take weeks and has been. I mean, this has been happening for a while now. So these developers are left with the cognitive burden of doing ops, security, compliance tasks to speed things up. So basically, you have too much code and then too little throughput. So you get this cluttered two freeway lane as you see over here. So the problem has really been magnified by a magnitude because teams are now using all types of AI tools, right? Coding agents, and there's a lot more code being generated. You can tell by the number of PRs that are happening today. I mean, companies are pushing their teams to leverage AI. So this is becoming a bottleneck issue, and this issue is getting worse. And these traditional CI/CD practices can't really keep up anymore. So the inner loop where the build happens has become a 10x superhighway, but the outer loop is still operating at that 1x pace it was at before. So basically you have this 10x code velocity crashing into a 1x shipping wall. So the solution is to try and left shift some of the critical tasks from the outer loop to the inner loop so that these developers are more in control and review cycles are substantially cut. So you have activities like compliance, you have security, both at the code layer, the data layer, as well as governance being pushed into the inner loop. So you're able to enable these developers to become more in control of those key aspects so that the cycles are freed up at the outer loop. But do you just pass these tasks to developers to try and figure out themselves and add to their cognitive workload? I mean, it just stresses them out. They're going to end up quitting, right? And you will end up with a slower inner loop and the whole cycle goes back to where it really was before. So the solution really is to leverage these agents that operate autonomously and on demand within the developer IDE. So they act as your digital specialized workforce that's available 24/7 on demand. So with that, I wanted to pass over to Vishnu to actually go in and show you the agents that we launched a few weeks ago and really walk you down how these agents work and their key benefits. So Vishnu, over to you.
Thank you, Nazar. Let me share my screen. I believe you have to stop sharing the screen.
Okay, one sec. I stopped. Go for it.
Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, and wherever you are, thank you for joining the call. And I'm excited to basically share this new product that we launched a month back. It's been immense helpful, like even for my own team, and then we are basically getting a lot of good feedbacks from the enterprises that they have started using it. So what you're seeing is basically uh, the actual portal, like where you basically can have the control tower of all the agents that you're basically getting executed. But let me basically start with this, right, to give a walkthrough on how this basically works. It's a simple like registration. You can basically like set it up in like less than 2 minutes, and then you can start using it. So this is the portal opsera.ai/slash agents. And all you have to do is click get started. It's going to basically take you to the portal of agent.opsera.ai. And you can basically like sign in with your GitHub or your email account, and it automatically comes with the SSO. If you're an organization, we can connect your SSO and you can start using it. If you're an independent developer, you can basically use with your personal email ID or like with your GitHub account, and you should be able to log in. So the process is pretty simple. When you log in, you go to the getting started, go to the configuration, and we basically connect to all the major IDEs that we have, like a Cloud Code, Cursor, VS Code, or even Anti-Gravity, wherever they can like configure your MCP. This is going to work as is. In the case of Claude, all you have to do is just like copy this, put it on your Claude CLI. It's going to basically get it configured. And the four agents that we are talking about, like with respect to AppSec agent, compliance, and then like you have the architecture analysis agent. It's all going to be available for you. The best part is it's going to work for all the languages that you basically currently using. So these agents are basically like these agents have super intelligence in that sense, like irrespective of the code generated by the AI coding assistants like Copilot, Cursor, or Claude, these agents are going to basically have the rules, policies, and it's going to basically like guide the developers in terms of like what the code is being generated, and it can give a full impact analysis on the architecture that is getting impacted on the code being changed, or the security vulnerabilities, or like any security issues that code is being generated. It's going to take care of it by letting the developers know in terms of, hey, there is a security vulnerability here, do you want to fix it? And we are going to make sure that like it's a human in the loop concept, and it also runs autonomously. If there are a security vulnerability issues, we are going to block the commit, let the developer know. If the developer is fixing it, we are going to watermark the code. So that's the level of confidence that we have, that the fix that basically whatever that we are applying, it's going to basically make sure that like your app is not going to break because of the security vulnerability fix or the architecture fix. With that,
Quick thing, Vishnu, there's in the setup, you don't really require an API token, correct?
no
You've
token,
simplified the setup.
no token, nothing. All you have to do is connect to this and log in through your GitHub. We basically like connect to your own SSO or the GitHub login, and we'll basically take it from there. So it's completely secure platform. The major part is your data is not basically stored in Opsera. All these executions are going to happen in your IDE, and we are not basically taking any metadata, or we are not basically checking out any of your code aspect as well.
Fantastic.
Okay, now I have configured this. So I'm just basically going to act as a developer here. So I am in this, like, I have this React web client portal. That's my code. It's in local. I'm going to basically like change my code, right? I'll basically give an example. Uh, Modify the login screen with GitHub authentication, and run the Opsera architecture security agents. So this is a prompt that you're basically giving to your Claude or Cursor, right? Like as an intent, what is the change that you want to make? And this is going to write the code for me with respect to GitHub authentication on this particular code that I have. Once the code is basically written, these agents are going to run automatically to understand the impact of the architecture analysis, impact of the security agents. This is one way that you can do it as part of it. But if you're using Cursor or Claude, we do have plugins for Claude and Cursor. So when you install plugins, you don't even have to invoke this these agents are going to spawn in automatically whenever you're trying to make a commit. I'll just give an example on the cursor while this basically we're working on, right? So last week we had an Claude example, like where there was an nmap, like .map file getting leaked, right? Imagine that like there are many enterprises facing this because it's very hard to basically like review the code on the thousands of lines of code that's being generated. But using our security agent, right, like my own team, right, like when I was trying to make a commit, if you look at here, my commit got blocked just for one reason, because I have this .map file, the npm build, which is basically like going into the commit. So this is very, very important. With the AI being generated, AI is very good in generating the code, but the amount of code being generated, it's hard to review every line of code and every file that's basically getting modified. But imagine that like you have an intelligent agents like sitting like an architect, sitting like a security person, sitting like a compliance person right next to you within your IDE and telling you exactly like where the problem is, and you don't even have to fix it manually. We can basically help you fix it, and we generate a nice beautiful report which you can basically commit back to your repo, so like you can have a complete audit tracking of what's being done along with the code that is basically being generated by the developers as part of their feature development.
That brings me to a question for you, Vishnu. Like, if you're using AI to write the code and your agents to secure it, right? How do you prevent this hallucination loop where the security agent misses a vulnerability because it shares the same underlying bias as the generator? So if you're writing the code with Claude and Claude is the one actually assessing it, and that might have been what part of the issue was with what happened, I think, last week.
Oh, that's a fantastic question, right? Right now, if you look at any IDE, be it Cursor, Copilot, or Claude, right? Like you can pick and choose the model that you want to have. It's going to basically like give the results based on the prompt given by the developers. So right now, what we are doing today, we take the code, believing it's going to work, and we are basically committing it. But when it comes to these agents, these are not just agents built on like a skills.md file. It basically runs through the MCP, and behind MCP, we do have our own light LLM. So what it does is the light LLM is going to make sure the evaluation is done on the right way, and it's going to basically make sure the bias is like taken care of, so the consistency is going to be there 100% every time these agents are being executed. So that's a huge difference. It's not just we are relying on the LLM on your end, but the light LLM behind our MCP is going to tell your LLM, hey, these are the rules, policies, guidelines that needs to be taken care. Make sure this is followed. And once it's executed, this LLM is going to verify that's been taken care as well.
Thanks, Vishnu.
Okay, now let me go back. And so here it's basically writing the code for me. While this is writing the code, let me basically like run a sample report and show it to you guys. Give me a second. Okay, while that's basically getting executed, let me show you this. So there was an issue on the Python repository that basically like happened last week, right? And what I did is basically like took a sample open source repository like Zookeeper, and I basically compared with the architecture agent, security agent, you can see here, and look at what basically it has done. It took the baseline of 2019, and it basically gave me all the risk scores, CVEs, the high severity vulnerabilities, open gaps with respect to architecture, security deficits. And then like this is the architecture state in 2019, and look at what Opsera agent has fixed in terms of the all the remediation, the security issues we have, and it also tells me where exactly it's been basically fixed. On top of it, like here the architecture agent fixing the architecture related issues with respect to the vulnerabilities or the Java versions or the dependency updates, and also you can see the exact code changes with watermarking, because if you look at majority of the enterprise, the developers are not responsible for the open source libraries that we use as part of our development, right? But imagine that you have this agent, this can take care of it, because even though it's open source, the moment you basically get into the enterprise, your application, your enterprise basically gets vulnerable as well. But that's something we can take care of it with our security agent and architecture agent working in tandem and basically giving all the fixed related information. And also the best part is when we basically fix something, we have the capability to basically write the unit test classes in an autonomous way and make sure we test it that your app is not going to break as well, right? And look at the
Hey,
comparison.
quick
Mhm.
question over here. So it seems like you ran both agents at once. Is that correct, Vishnu?
Yeah. Yes. The best part is you can orchestrate multiple agents that we have at the same
Mhm.
time, or you can basically run it independently as well. Or you can also have a scheduler on these agents that can run against your repository on a weekly basis, like on the architecture, and you can basically put it back to your GitHub repository as well. Today, the biggest challenge that we have in the market is there are code that has been written like 5 years, 10 years back, and there is no like good documentation in terms of what architecture has been getting updated as and when the code is getting changed. Especially with the AI coming into the market, it's been very difficult to keep track of it. Imagine that like you have something like this architecture agent can basically be a run book for you. So every time a new PR comes in, new commit is basically coming in, you know exactly where it is going to impact on the architecture, and you can also determine the blast radius for you. You can also like determine this stride in terms of like where the attack vulnerabilities, the threat vectors are like there within the architecture, and you'll be able to fix it with the guidance that we basically give as part of the agent. Either you can fix it manually or leave it to the agent, we'll fix it, and then like we'll watermark the code. So to give an example from 2019 to 2026, this one here is a 2019 baseline that I have. 2026 without Opsera, here are the vulnerabilities that like we have, and we are waiting for the community to fix it. But with Opsera, I can see here these are something like we have fixed it and we have pushed it to the open source like community. And you can do it for any language, any repository that you have, whether it's open source or like even your enterprise. As I said, it's going to run on your IDE, and we are not basically going to take any data from your end or like read your code to basically get it to Opsera as well. Okay. While this
Thanks,
is going
Vishnu.
on, let me go
Uh,
back. Yeah.
just a quick question in terms of the number, tool fatigue, right? So developers are really being overwhelmed by so many different tools that they're working with, whether it's Jira, Snyk, Sonar Cube, open source, closed source, whatever it is. How do these agents integrate with the existing tool stack that they have without having to add another dashboard? And how do they reduce that cognitive overload for the developer who's using them, right? So they don't have to keep context switching each time.
Yeah. Best part is we are not basically like bringing any change transformation to developers. Currently, the problem with the developer community is you have like one security person for 100 developers, 120 developers, and you have one architect, and it's very hard for developers to reach out to them in terms of any questions. Imagine that like you have these agents sitting as a persona. The best part is this persona has been built as a these agents are built as a persona, not for any specific tools. So you might have like a security tool like Sonar Cube check marks or or like uh, Twist Lock or Prisma Cloud. We can integrate with the existing tool that you have, and we'll be able to basically execute these tools in an agentic mode on your IDE, so that like you get all the guidance set up by your enterprise team as part of the governance taken care within IDE. So what it does to the developer community is today all of these issues are getting identified at the CI/CD pipeline level, and it is basically like blocking the code going into production faster. And also you run into a lot of technical debt, security issues, quality issues. Imagine that like the developers are taking care of all of these things within the IDE. Your pipeline is going to be smooth. Your PR is not going to have any issues, and your security quality is going to run in a very smooth fashion, and your code is going to go faster. With that, the value that enterprise are going to get is predictable velocity, predictable throughput, and like reduced security vulnerabilities in your production. So while we talk about that, you look at here, right? The code has been written, it's completed. Now it automatically invoked the architecture analyze agent and security agent here, and it's basically going through it. As I said, I have this option of running these agents in autonomous mode, or also like I can basically make sure I have human in the loop. So every time this gets executed, I know exactly what I'm basically giving as a command, and it's going to give me the report uh, com- end of the work. And after that, I can make a commit, or I can basically open a PR as well. While this gets executed.
I have a quick question for you. Like you talked about different it integrating with different tools that an organization already has, security tools. What happens if it realizes there might be a gap the tool cannot solve for or check for? Does it have the capability of offering an advice to go and install this tool, or going dynamically and installing that specific package?
So that's a good question, Azir. So if you do not have any tools, we basically provide the open source tools that's best of the breed, and we basically install it on your local laptop and we execute it. So if you look at it, these are the open source tools that we are going to install on your Mac or like your Windows laptop, and we'll execute it. In case of like you do not have any commercial tool at that point in time.
Got it.
Okay. While this is running the architecture and the security, right? We do have the compliance agents. Imagine that like a developer needs to understand or make sure every time you code, you follow the HIPAA policies, right? And you have the GDPR policies or the SOC 2 type 2 or the PCI. No developer will understand like what is the policy number and what exactly needs to be done, because it's a very, very dry subject, and it's not managed by the development community or the business. It's managed by the compliance team. And we always run into compliance issues in majority of the enterprise, and we basically try and fix it in a drinking through the fire hose, right? During the audits, we have a compliance agent dedicatedly that's going to take care of all the complaint needs, where developer doesn't have to know about what is 164 3.2 within HIPAA policy, what is the GDPR policy for like a certain part of the code, what is the PCA policy, what is the SOC 2 type 2 policy. We can basically take care of it when the code is being written, and we can generate the report as well. While this is getting executed, I'm going to show the HIPAA compliance audit report. Right? Look at it. I basically ran against data engineering repository on March 11. It identified the HIPAA compliance issues, the critical gaps, the high, medium gaps, and it gave me the score across the access control, encryption, audit logging, change management, vulnerability, business continuity, DR, and policy documentation. And here you can see the HIPAA 164.308 and what are the issues.
So quick question here. What frameworks are preset, and can we import other or check against other frameworks? Because like in places like Europe, compliance is always changing.
Yeah, so our agent is like flexible enough to pick up the latest and greatest of the policy changes that's coming in, because we update our agents like pretty much once in a week, just to make sure that like we keep up to date. And today we cover about like 7 different policies, starting from your FTC, ISO 27001, GDPR, SOC 2 Type 2, HIPAA, PCI, and then there's another one like I have forgot, but like we can cover all. So you can, based on the organization need, you can run all the complaints that like you have, which you can use it as an evidence when the audit comes in. It makes your life easy. Or you can basically like pick and choose the audit that is required as per the enterprise needs, right? Or if you just need HIPAA alone, just say Opsera compliance HIPAA, it's going to take care of it. Let me show how that works. So while let me run. So I can basically say compliance audit. Either it runs against all, or I can basically say compliance audit, compliance, say run ISO 27000. So it's going to run only for the ISO 27001 and generate the report after the architecture and security is done. I'm basically invoking manually just to basically showcase it to you guys how this gets executed. But technically, if you install our plugin, like that's available in the marketplace within Cloud or Cursor, you don't have to even basically invoke what I just did. It's going to run automatically when you try to make a commit, which is what I was showing in the Cursor some time back, where you can see when I was trying to make a commit, it ran the agent automatically, and then it basically blocked it, saying that like I have an issue on this. and I can basically say fix it. It's going to go fix my issue on the npm build that I was trying to commit, and then it will make a commit automatically. And whatever the pipeline that you have set it up, it's going to run without any issues.
I think this is so critical for these regulated industries in government, finance, and healthcare, where you need an audit trail of what changes happened, right? And I'm assuming we have that audit trail, correct?
Yes, absolutely. We do have an audit trail, and anything that we generate, it generates a nice report and also an MD file. You can basically use it as an evidence. So in this case, if you look at here, and you can see they identified an high issue, they tagged it to the HIPAA compliance, and then like what is the worst case, what is the remediation? We basically give the remediation plan in such a way like whether you can do it in a manual fashion, or you can basically like hand it over to the agent to basically go fix it, and we'll basically be fixing it. So look at here, evidence inventory, evidence collected, evidence that is missing, stale and expired, and what is the roadmap. Either you can basically fix it manually or leave it to the agent to fix it.
Yeah, this is really awesome, Vishnu. I think we see a lot of companies, especially startups, trying to be compliant as they go looking for funding, or even regulated industries, and just being able to have an agent that does this and working for you 24/7 is just I think is very, very cool.
Yeah, I think like with the more and more AI coming in, new models coming in, how do you basically like empower the developers, right? Without like having a lot of change management. Because one thing when we started building the product, we were absolutely sure that like we don't want to basically burden the developer with another tool where they need to basically go have a learning curve. It has to be as simple as that. So just configure via plugin, install it via plugin, and it's going to run like as part of the every commit. So you can go home peacefully like during the release, because your code is going to taken care of by the agents that we have around architecture, around security, around compliance. And as I said, it can run for a data platform, it can run for legacy application that you have, or it can run for like the latest and greatest technologies that like you have like while you're writing the code right now.
Awesome.
So look at here, it basically like fix the issues, pre-commit scan, security scan. I didn't do anything. It basically confirmed like zero new findings. Previously, it blocked my commit. Now it fixed it and ran the scan, and then like it committed the file automatically with 6,522 insertions. And you can basically click view a report on Opsera, and when you open it, it's going to have the report for me available where I can see like what exactly it fixed it.
And
These
and
are
and you're able to share this report, correct, with your team?
absolutely. There is a copy link option. You can copy this link and send it to your like architects or the leaders, and who if they want to basically review it, and they'll be able to like see this report in a secure fashion, log in through your like your SSO account.
Got it.
And you can also basically look at the scan history here, and you will be able to see what exactly happened. And you can also download this report or like to look at here. Instead of like you running 7 different security as part of your pipeline, which is going to block, you can run secret scanning, and then like your infrastructure as code, gripe, your dependency, npm, static code analysis, package leakage, infrastructure as a code, container scan, sonar cube, everything can be like executed here, and you get the score, and you'll also be able to see the information here. And this is what I was talking about, stride threat analysis. This is very, very critical for every application to understand like what are the threat vectors that you have. Do you have spoofing issues? Do you have tampering, repudiation, and then like information disclosure? And then like what are the issues that like you need to go fix it right away? CVs, you get everything on your IDE. Now you don't have to wait for the pipeline to tell you where the problem is on the code that is basically like pushed as part of the PR. And you get the quick wins, fix in this sprint or plan next quarter. So this will definitely help the business or the security team to basically plan it better in case like they want to basically do it in a like a structured way, or you can basically leave it to the agents to go fix it automatically. Any questions?
Yeah, I saw one question, and in terms of outcomes, maybe ROI or gains. What are teams realizing right now? Like, what are they seeing any productivity gains with this in real time, or what are you seeing on the ground?
So before agents, I'll basically give a data point, right? So before AI coding assistants, the average time to basically like approve a PR for a team lead was around like 1.2 to 1.5 days to 2 days. Now, what we have seen with the amount of code that is being generated, that has gone from 1.5 to 2 days to like almost 5 days now, because that's the amount of code that the reviewer has to review it before he commits the code into the production because of the enterprise governance and everything. With these agents, we were able to see that like the time taken to peer review has come down significantly to less than 2 days. That's because not just like we run the scan, we fix it, but also we generate the evidence, and we also basically put this report back to the Git repository as a evidence, so that like when they review the PR, they can already review from the security aspect, architecture aspect on the impact, and then they can approve it confidently, so that like when the code goes into the pipeline, they know it's not going to cause any issues with respect to the CI/CD pipeline breakage and everything.
Got it. And in terms of one more question, in terms of this architecture, you ran the architecture agent. Um, there's so much messy code because of all these AI agents coming up. They're generating so much code. What if those agents are violating the internal design patterns? Can the architecture agent kind of enforce company specific standards
Oh,
or
absolutely.
policies?
Yeah, we call it as an intent and context engineering. So imagine that like you have an approved architecture guidelines that like you want to follow as part of your application context or organization context. You can always basically like set up your own guidance here, which I'll basically show it here. So when you go here and you can basically choose custom instructions, and you can basically choose the tool and say like I'm going to choose the architecture analysis or best practices, and you'll be able to basically like add set of custom instructions as per your architecture team or as per your security team. And when this agent getting executed, not just our skills and then like the rules that we basically apply, we also take the context that's coming from the organization or the application and apply it as part of the code generation. So I'll basically show it as an example. So security added, I'm going to add. So I can say block commits if env file is part of the code commit. Now this is a rule I'm basically adding as part of the governance. Click save changes. Now anytime a developer is basically like committing the code, we are going to block the commit if you find any env file as part of your code commit. That's going to take care of it automatically, and you can apply this either at the agent level, or if you are basically bringing your own tool, and you can also apply this as part of the tool, even though your tool may not have the capability. But imagine that like we are going to bring that capability to the tool that you have. It can be homegrown or commercial or like the open source, and we basically like apply it as part of the code generation. And the
Did you
best
just
part is,
provide did you just provide that instruction in plain English?
yes, it's just a plain English. You don't have to write any like scripting, or you don't need to know like a Python. Doesn't matter. It's a just plain English. The best part is all these agents it comes with a learning agent. So imagine like Nazar, you as a developer, you are basically like having some set of best practices that you're applying as part of your coding practices. It's very hard in a large enterprise to basically share your best practices to 20 another 10,000, 20,000 developers. You can basically like leave it to us, and these learning agents are going to continue to learn from you, or you can basically put it here as part of best practices, and we can take this and give it to all the 20,000, 10,000 developers within the enterprise, so that like you will have 20,000 NASAs when they basically write the code.
That's just it's so cool that we've moved on from these preset pre-required rules to these plain English capabilities for all these MCPs. I find that just so interesting. And you can make errors, and I'm assuming you'll probably still understand what you wrote.
Yeah, like I make a lot of typos when I basically write the skills, right? But the thing is, as I said, we do have a light LLM behind our MCP that's going to take care of all these typos. That's going to take care of some issues like on the skills that is written. And if it is something completely wrong, or like we are giving some wrong instruction saying that like allow NPM to be basically be like going through the build, our light LLM is going to block it because we know that is wrong. We know that is wrong. We are going to block it.
Got it.
So you can see here, like less than 20 minutes, the code is written and it basically ran the architecture agent. It ran the security agent. Now it's basically like updating my evidence. It's creating a report for me. And I can basically like go to this MD file and see like what is the security report looking like? What is my architecture report looking like? And I'll be able to basically commit the code peacefully, knowing that like this is not going to cause any issues.
The architecture agent, I know I've seen some screenshots, but it is able to provide recommendation for cost savings as well, right? Cost optimization.
Absolutely. So we basically give the current landscape of the architecture based on the code that you have. And imagine that like you want to re-architect to the next level, and then like you want to basically change your application to AI enabled, and you want to understand what is it going to look like. You can ask in plain English saying that like, hey, now this is the current architecture of the code. Can you basically give me the future architecture and the cost savings that I'm going to get it moving to like a container based application or like serverless based application? What is the impact going to be? What is the blast radius going to be? What is my failure modes going to be? It's going to generate the futuristic architecture and tell you the pitfalls, the pros, the cons, where it will basically help your team to make the decision faster instead of like you putting everything through a paper, assuming that like this is going to work and this is going to cause issues. So you will have complete picture. Otherwise, like if I have to put it this way, it's like you know your destination where you're going, and it's like telling you the traffic and what are the different routes that you have to basically reach the destination in a faster way. That is exactly this architecture agent or the security agent does for you.
Can you talk a little bit more, maybe? Sorry, I know I'm digressing, but just for a minute, maybe on the refactoring capabilities. I think companies spend so much money trying to refactor their code base. How can the architecture analyzer agent play a role in that?
Okay, so let this report get generated. Maybe feature architecture for a enabled application. Yeah, I want to go to serverless based deployment.
And while Vishnu is typing that instruction, feel free to add your questions, or if you want him to show something very specific, you can do that as well. He's covered so far the architecture and security, scanner agent. He ran those together. He showed you the compliance agent, and right now he's running the architecture agent again to try and show an example of code refactoring. So.
Yeah. While we basically going look at here, right? It basically like fixing the OAuth CSR vulnerability, and I didn't do anything. It identified a critical vulnerability. It automatically fixed it.
Did you approve it? Did you set the
Yeah.
approval to fix?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
I did approve it. So this is a report it generated. I can show the report that is generated here. Yeah. And you also get to see how the score is being calculated. And we basically give it everything in like a simple, readable format, made it simple in a way that like everybody can understand, like be it the C levels, the executives, the VP of engineering, or the developers, or the security, legal, audit, compliance team. And you'll be able to basically like use it for your discussion or like future context as well.
Or just show your benchmark and show that your security posture is improving over time. I think that's
Correct.
pretty cool.
That is available in the portal. Like, so for example, like you come to the portal here, and when I go to the usage, you'll be able to see all the agents that you're basically using. And when you go to the scan history, and you can see whether you're basically improving your security posture by 0.2%, or like improving it or going down, and you'll be able to see like what is the latest findings and vulnerabilities. Okay. And you can
Thanks,
also get
Vishal.
this at the organization level as well.
Got it.
So go back. Any questions, Nasa, that you're getting from the team?
No, I don't see any. I know there's one that I'm going to ask at the end of this. It was asked, but I think it makes more sense to put it at the end. So we've thrown in a lot of the questions that were posed so far.
Yeah. So look at here, right? Now, knowing the code with the current architecture, it's basically like addressing the serverless architecture, and it's running on the current code, and it's going to tell me what needs to be changed. And if you want to change it, if you want to basically like apply the changes by reading the architecture, just use that architecture report that is basically generated as an output as a context. All developer has to do is hit yes, or just say, okay, change this 1, 2, 3, leave the 4, 5, 6. It's going to update the code and give the code, and you can run it in a different server altogether using our another deployment agent that we have. So like you're not disturbing your current application, but at the same time, we can see whether the new modernized application, how it is basically working using our architecture agent.
And traditionally, I think that would take so many resources for an organization to bring in and try to refactor the entire code base, correct?
Correct. And the best part is we don't just like run the architecture agent saying like, okay, analyze my architecture, right? We analyze the architecture in 8 different contexts, starting from system design, data flow, authentication, authorization, security, defense in depth, your deployment architecture, and then like you will also have the stride with respect to the threat vectors and failure modes. So you get all these dimensions out of the box, and we execute in 3 phases. The phase one, it basically identifies the code, actual code, and then like understands the code and gives you the high level information. And once we get that high level information, we basically go to the phase two, which is where like this is getting executed as you speak, as you see here. We understand your language, the dependencies, the open source components, and then like what are the different API calls, the API contracts, all the information will be captured here. And then like we basically like execute the phase three, which is going to be the report generation part, which will have all the detailed information. So now here you can see the report has saved here. Now it is basically like generating the target architecture diagram for you within the IDE, and it can also generate an HTML for you, which you can basically like a copy link and share it with your leadership to basically tell what exactly it looks like to basically modernize your application. So look at here. It basically not just giving me the architecture diagram, but also giving me the migration steps by the dependencies, and then like what are the critical serverless risks to address before the migration, and the cost estimate. Everything is calculated upfront and given to you without you basically like uh, spending hours and days to even like think about this kind of migration.
I think that's super cool. I know with respect to time, Vishnu, are you showing any other agents? I just wanted to close out with the last set of questions.
No, I think like we pretty much covered it. The compliance agent
Okay.
is running, but I already covered the report, so we can go ahead with the questions.
I think we had a lot of questions that came in during the session, but the one last one is for teams looking to move towards agentic development, right? Where do they start if they already have an existing process in place? What considerations do they need to make?
So what I would say is like it depends on where they stand as per the enterprise need, but irrespective of it, the purpose of AI coding assistance for enterprise to basically like go to production faster, but that is not the only goal that we should keep. We should also make sure faster doesn't mean compromising the security quality aspect of it. Faster means fast with all the guardrails, and we shifting these agents to developer console. It's going to basically make the developer life easier with less bugs, less security issues, and you are not just basically like controlling the technical debts or the security issues caused by the code generated, but also anything that's coming through open source, we can take care of it, which will basically help the enterprise like with the compliance related issues or the security related issues or the governance related issues in advance, and also they'll be able to have predictable velocity and throughput so that like they can start investing on the right tools, not just for the developers but also on the other areas as well.
Yeah, and I highly implore people to go and try out the agents for free. I mean, up to teams of less than 10, you can use all these capabilities, all these agents free for life. Um, and you have them at a whim. So go and try these out. Opsera.ai, /agents.
Thank you,
All
Nasser.
all
I
right,
think
thank you. Thanks so much, Vishnu, for covering this. I'm just gonna, if you stop sharing, we'll just close out.
Mhm.
All right. So, I just wanted to share some key takeaways, right? I mean, sometimes we go through a presentation and we lose some of the gist. Firstly, thanks, Vishnu, for going into so much depth in all of those agents. I highly implore people to go and try out these agents themselves. You can follow through on this recording that will be sent out. Again, what we are seeing is this agentic DevSecOps is a reality. Companies want to shift from traditional SDLC and they're experimenting and moving towards AI SDLC. So really, Opsera is providing you with the capabilities, the guardrails, so you can scale correctly. We launched these AppSec agents for DevSecOps about a month ago. We're seeing some really good traction and more agents across the DevSecOps, the SDLC for different personas will be released very soon. And new really, really cool capabilities are coming down the line as well. Again, next steps and key learning resources. We have some really, really good videos. You can go try these out and check them out if you want to go slowly step by step and try some of these agents across architecture and analyzer all the way down to the SQL scanner. I mentioned the URL, opsera.ai. We can try the QR code over here, opsera.ai/agents. And I think we covered most of the questions, Vishnu, so thanks for that. I will pass to Yusra to close out. We do have a raffle, so she can touch on that a little bit.
Alrighty, everyone. Hope you can hear me properly. But before concluding, we wanted to announce today's raffle winners, Sherida Hilario and Doug Hoover. Keep an eye out for an email from me, Yusra at Opsera, on running our agents for more details on your Lego sets. And that wraps up today's session, the first of our agentic workshops. Definitely more to come in these series. Share with your colleagues, give us feedback on what you want to see from these. We hope to incorporate that moving forward. We'll be sharing the recording to registrants shortly after the event so you can reference it in the future. And thanks again all for joining. We hope to see your faces and names at upcoming Opsera events. Thanks all.